From the bottom of my heart, a very merry All-Hallows Eve to all of my fellow boils and ghouls. My name is Ryan Cam, and it is the most wonderful time of the year. Or at least one of them. It's Halloween. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Everything gets a little more spooky. The air gets a little chillier. Or, well, in Florida it gets less hot than it was in August. But the point is, I love this time of year for a lot of reasons. It's got something for everybody. You like the weather? You got it. You got the foliage? You got that. You got candy? Oh yeah. But my favorite part of this season are the movies. Specifically, of the scary vintage. Last year, I reviewed 31 horror movies in 31 days. It was quite a challenge, but I managed to do it. So much so that I want to do it again. So, without any further ado, let's kick off Scarymania II. Last year I covered one of the original horror movies, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. However, I want to stay close to that, but in a bit of a neighboring country. This time I'm going to be talking about The Golem, released in 1920. Co-directed by Paul Wegener and Carl Bose, this is a movie based on the Jewish legend of the same name, which some say inspired Mary Shelley to write a little novel you may have heard of called Frankenstein. It tells the story of a rabbi who is living in 16th century Prague. It's rather rough goings as Rudolph II persecutes his people night and day. So to combat this rabbi takes clay and using the powers of a mystical book called the Kabbalah, and brings the Golem to life, a massive warrior designed only to bring justice to his people. However, this soon gets corrupted as one of the rabbi's assistants thinks, hey, I can pilot this thing for myself. And it doesn't go well. With the knowledge that this movie inspired Frankenstein, yeah, it really does show, because if you take a look at both Frankenstein and the Golem, they're eerily similar to each other. They follow smaller dudes making massive monsters to challenge certain figures, and, well, it's basically man playing God and then falling flat on their face as a result. What I appreciate about older movies like this is that they didn't have what most directors have today. They didn't have CGI or creative clouds or editing suites. They pretty much just did everything a lot simpler back then. But that's kind of the charm. What I love about the Golem is that how it feels like humble, if that's a weird way of putting it. The directors needed to rely on more smoke and mirrors to achieve the results that they wanted, and achieve them they did. When the Golem actually comes to life, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the theater to see just people's reactions. It would have been fun to watch. With that said, though, there's definitely signs of age. Not blatant, but definitely enough to notice. Like, for example, there's a scene where the rabbi and his assistant have to carry the Golem up the stairs, and it's clear that they're carrying either a wooden model or some kind of a model. That's clearly not the actor in that suit, but at the same time, this movie was made in 1920, so what can we expect? Speaking of the actor, the man in the big red mushroom is one of the co-directors, Paul Wegener. I give my props to him because that suit just looks like really hot and just super dangerous. If he fell over, there just had to have been an entire team of like, you gotta get him up! You gotta get him up! And ultimately, at the end of the day, the Golem, if it were a tree, it would be the trunk or the nucleus, and Frankenstein would be one of its branches. It's basically the great-great-great-grandfather of what we call monster movies. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. It is on Canopy, and it's only about an hour and 10-ish minutes, so it's a relatively quick watch. If you want to watch a legitimate piece of horror movie history, then give it a chance.